So welcome back to another episode of what it's like to be a container farmer. Today we're in an R&D farm, so we're not following all good agricultural practice protocol, but we are going to be transplanting some basil into the main grow room. So it's been 10 days about or so. We're transferring it over. But first, before we get into that, we're going to do SOPs of daily checklists on the software and some cleaning as well to then proceed with the basil and then a little bit more cleaning. So follow along as I go through the daily task of making sure everything works fine in the farm. All right, so first things first, we're going to look at the environmental part. So temperature, humidity, CO2, and all the devices, make sure that they work properly. So let's jump into the software here. So I have my controller. So I'm going to have a look at my dashboard. Temperature, 24 Celsius, that's good. 71 humidity, it's a little bit on the high side, but it's probably going to go a little bit lower. Once the device kicks in. 86 VPD, that's good, and 1000 CO2, we're good there. Going to the devices, I just want to make sure that everything is online with the little green and red dots. I know that they're online. When it's offline, that's what it looks like, so that's normal. We don't have any light lifters. Humidity, everything's on auto, that's great. So everything is good on the device side. Then the next, I'm going to jump into the historical data, and I'm just going to make sure that the curve looks good, and they do. And then 7 days as well, just to see what the pattern looks like here. And that's great as well too. Nothing that I didn't know about already. Everything looks great for this. So next we're gonna do visual inspection of the sensors themselves and the devices inside the grow room. And just make sure everything looks well with our own eyes. Software looks good. And then we'll decide from there what we do next. So let's go into the main grow room. All right, so one of two sensors right here. So I already checked in the back what the temperature, humidity, CO2 is. But there's a mini screen on it, so I'm just going to double check to see if it makes sense. Once a week, we're going to calibrate. I'll do another video on calibration, but to me, that looks quite right for what we're looking at. When we do a calibration video, I'll show you how to double check with this, but so far so good. It's plugged in. Everything is good right here. This is the basil that we're going to be transplanting later. So the advantage of using a tray system like this is that we can put 10 by 20 trays in the environment and kind of help the basil get accustomed to the new light, to the new temperature and all that, so that it can, what we call hardening off the seedlings. So I knew I was going to transplant today. 2 days ago, I moved them in here so they get used to the light, get used to the temperature. Next, I had to look at all the lights and make sure that the lights look good. Keep in mind, this is a R&D container, so we're using zip ties to test our lights. Normally, there's proper brackets. So I just double check the zip ties as well, make sure everything's good. Going to the nursery right here. Into the nursery, I'm just gonna double check to see if all the lights are on with the 10 by 20 trays that we're using right now. And everything is perfect. Also another thing too is I'm gonna try to have the seedlings acclimate. So I'm just gonna remove the domes on each one of them to let them kind of breathe out for the rest of the day as well too. So that's not a mandatory SOP, it's just a bonus, but part of doing the daily grow operation. So that's good for now on what it looks like for the back here. Let's go back to the front, and now we're gonna do irrigation. So just making sure that pH, EC, and all that is good to go. So let's go back to the front. Move over to the irrigation skid for everything irrigation in a container. I'm just watching my water levels first. Everything is good on that side. The software tells me anyways. And I'm gonna look at my EC, so electrical conductivity, see how much salts I have, my pH, my dissolved oxygen, and ORP, how clean the water is. All that data looks good. Something to notice as well, the ORP is a little bit jumpy, I find, so may need to calibrate it soon. So I'm just gonna take a note of that during calibration to be extra cautious on the ORP. Next, I'm just gonna see what the fertilizer levels look like. So CalMag right here, micro and veg, everything looks good. pH down is a little low, so that's another thing too I'm gonna add for next week to do, make sure that we replenish the pH, and we're also gonna add 2 more amendments there as well. And then going down, I'm gonna look at my sensors, make sure I don't see any leaks on the skid. Everything looks great. Make sure that all the valves and all that are open. Everything looks good as well too there. So next, I have my Blue Lab pens here that checks for EC and pH. So I'm gonna measure what's inside the water as well and make sure that I'm getting the same data or close to what the Nervine controller is telling me. So at least I can kind of build confidence in the system as well too. So that will be the first thing. So I'll put a ladder and go up into the tank. All right, so first things first, I'm going to measure the EC. So I'm reading a 1.09 or 1.1 EC on the Neurovine. So I have my step ladder. I'm going to go up, and this is a EC blue lab pen. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into the solution. Let it be for a little bit. And as you can see, 1.1. So we're getting the same measurement, so that's good. I can trust both of the sensors. And then we're gonna do the same thing with pH. I'm getting 6.0 pH at the moment. So we're just gonna put it back into the solution. All right, so we're looking at 6.2. So it's off by 0.2, which is for pH quite significant. I went down 6.1 when I removed it. So it's still off by quite a bit when it comes to hydroponic. You don't want to be too far away. So that means that right away I'm going to have to do a calibration of my pH and to make sure that either this guy or the Neurovine is the right one that I can trust, and especially for pH, because that's pretty crucial for hydroponic systems. So we'll put a note on that tomorrow morning. First thing, we're going to do that calibration. So next, we're going to go to the grow room, and we're going to also measure the slurry, so what comes out after the plant, and see what kind of measurements we're getting there in terms of pH and EC. So let's go there. So another thing that's crucial so I get proper readings is that I don't want it to read that liquid that I just measured. So I'm just going to rinse it underneath the sink here a little bit, the probes, and just make sure that that gets off. For pH, you never want to dry it because you'll ruin the sensor. So you just kind of let it air dry like that, and then you put the cap back when you're finished and you're good to go. So now we're going to go in the room and measure the slurry. So as part of checking for irrigation and the water and all that, a big part of it is the root zone. So what I'm going to do is visually inspect the root zone. So I have a plant site right here, and what I'm looking for is exactly this: white roots, no slime, no different color like grayness or green coloring. So that's beautiful. That's exactly what I want to see. And I'm also going to look at the rock wool itself and see if there's anything growing there, and that's also very, very clean. So that's good news. Safe. Another thing is I'm going to pull an empty plant site and have visual look inside of it. I'm not seeing like any particulates that's floating or something like that. And also just touch inside and see if it's slimy or if the water is hot, for example, something like that. So I got sensors to know what the temperature of the water is, but nothing beats kind of touching it. So I'll do that, repeat it for a few plant sites right here. So this one is even more amazing. Root zone, that's beautiful. It's exactly what we want to see. And just kind of repeat the process multiple times. So that looks great. So next, I got my pH and my EC pen. I've already measured what's inside the main irrigation tank. So I'm going to go towards the end of the line here on the channel, and I'm going to measure what we're getting inside the water as well. So I'm just going to drop it in like this and let it be a little bit. And we're getting 1.1 EC. So we're matching exactly what's in the irrigation skid, and we're matching what's on the controller as well. So that's very good. We know that we can trust and that the system works well. And we're going to repeat the exact same thing with pH. I'm going to put it in as well. Measure 6.1 and 6.1. Maybe mix it a bit. Oh, 6.2. So great. So although it doesn't officially match the controller, it still matches what we read inside the tank. So that's good. We know that we can trust the water inside the irrigation. So that's excellent right there. On other episodes, I'll go into more the mechanical part of like checking the pumps, cleaning filters and things like that. We don't need to do this on the daily. It's not as important. This is more important to do regularly, if not daily, because it's crucial to plant health. And if you kind of have that out of your head and you stop looking into your pH and your EC, you could easily kill your plants, burn the plants. And so that's crucial to have a look at it very often. So next, we're ready now for the basil to be transplanted. So now that we're ready to transplant for the basil, I'm just going to clean the work environment first. Then I'm going to grab the basil that I was hardening off with the light a little bit early before the transplant from the tray, and then bringing it here just so that we could work more comfortably. So just for cleaning, I got Sanitol right here, 20 milliliters per 1,000 milliliters. So I'm just going to spray this. That's why I got a nice clean counter. There's a bunch of other things you can use for this. You don't have to use Sanitol. It could be hydrogen peroxide. It could be hydrochloric acid. That's basically chlorine, but unmixed. There's all kinds of different options. So you don't have to just go with that for cleaning. So next, we're going to use one of our extra trays here. And that we're only going to use for transport. So now that we're back inside the lobby, I got my baskets. So those baskets, that you could buy them on Amazon, they're really cheap, about 10 cents each. And I'm just gonna go into my tray and separate each one like that. And how do I know it's ready for transplant? Well, it is a little bit early on this one, on these ones to transplant. But when true leaf starts is a good idea of when you're ready. If you see the root system developing, I had a look underneath, that's also a good telltale sign. So I'm just gonna pluck it in right. Oh, in this case, there's 2 seeds. So I'm gonna have a look and just pick out the one that's the weakest and destroy the one that's ready for transplant, that's stronger. I'm gonna continue the process here. Same thing, root coming out, that's great. Do a bit of an inspection at the same time to see if there's any pests that's flying around or something along those lines. Germination rate is pretty good, but sometimes I like to look as to why it didn't germinate. Was it because we missed the seed, or was it because something is wrong? And in this case, by opening up the rock wool, I see that there's no seed in it. So it's literally, we just missed putting a seed in that one there. So that's a good note for future. Try to make the best use of our space. Here, it looks like we dropped the seed. So I'm just gonna remove those 2 here like that. Plug them in. And just repeat the process until the whole tray is finished, and then we move that back into the main grow room to put them in the actual plant sites. All right, so now that we've done transplanting them into the baskets on a 10 by 20 tray, just to save us on transport, we're gonna move them into the main room. So just follow along with us as we transfer it over. It shouldn't take too long. And then the advantage with this is that I don't have any plants at the bottom tray. If not, there's also a little table that goes in between the 2 trays. So we could put the flat like this on it. Kind of fits, but get the point. And then what we're gonna do is we will plant on every other site. So we're gonna remove every other site like this, for example, and we'll speed it up and then just plug them in like that. And because basil is a cut and repeat, so we're only gonna cut once and then come back again the next week to get a little bit more basil. We're gonna give them way more space than we would normally use, for example, for other kind of crop, this, and then repeat the whole process for the entire tray. So as you can see, it's pretty quickly, and those basil will stay for, let's just say, probably around 6 weeks. Once we see that they're pretty much finished at cut and repeat, then we'll take them out and reset the whole tray. All right, so as you can see, we've just finished transplanting all of the basil into the tray. One thing I forgot to mention earlier as well is for planting purposes, the way the container is designed is that 1 8-foot section of this does 2 trays. But when you skip one side, it does 1 tray. So it's easy. It's basically 1 tray, 1 section, or 2 trays, 1 section if you do full plant sites. So it's super easy to be able to calculate where things are gonna go from the nursery into there. So basically we just finished transplanting. It took about 10 minutes to do so. We're gonna keep a close eye on them as they start growing. And then for the next episode, what we're gonna do is they're gonna be fully grown or partially grown. Let's just say we're gonna cut, we're gonna be able to harvest, and then we're gonna weigh as well and pack it, and you'll be able to see that process. So if you like what we're doing, like the video, subscribe as well to see what we're doing next as well in the farm as we go through multiple crops and we start operating the entire farm as well.